Greetings fellow subscribers and welcome to Month of Sonic 2. Now even though Sonic 4 has been delayed until the fall, I figured now is the proper time to go back and look at classic Sonic games. So let's not waste any time and head straight into Sonic...
Snooping as usual!
Do the Marios!
That's no good.
Well, Sonic 4 is almost here, and after my series of Mega Man 10 reviews, I decided to review all of the classic Sonic games in anticipation of this.
Hey! I'm reviewing the classic Sonic games.
Well, so am I.
But we can't both do it, there'd be no point. I always have a month of Sonic. I think you should go do something else.
But I said I'd review them in my Mega Man 10 review. I can't leave my meager fan base hanging like that.
Screw your fans, I'm more popular. I think I should get to do it.
But I had reservations. I called this months ago.
Well then I guess there's only one thing left to do. So here we are with the one that started it all. It's hard to believe that it's been nearly 20 years since the introduction of the Blue Blur. In fact, before we get into the game, let's just take a quick look into how Sonic came to be.
With the success of Super Mario, Sega wanted to create a new mascot for the company. One who would not only sell millions of copies, but would also compete against Mario himself. Designs were sent left and right, ranging from an armadillo, a dog, a Theodore Roosevelt knockoff in pajamas, and finally a rabbit. In the end, it all boiled down to an armadillo and a hedgehog. Eventually, artist Naoto Oshima's design of the Hedgehog would come to be chosen because he just looked cooler. It's the spines. The armadillo would later become the character Mighty the Armadillo, who, up to this point, has only made an appearance in 2 games.
The Theodore Roosevelt in pajamas design would eventually become the basis of Dr. Eggman. Whoops, I mean Dr. Robotnik. His fur, colored blue to match the Sega logo.
His shoes inspired by Michael Jackson and Santa Claus.
His inability to swim, given to him when Yuji Naka had an idiot moment and thought that hedgehogs couldn't swim.
His name is... Mr. Needlemouse. Huh.
His name? Sonic the Hedgehog. And thus we were introduced to what will become one of the most famous video game characters in the history of, well, video games. But just the character alone wasn't enough. Sonic needed some advertisements. Good God, what the fuck? Is this supposed to be Sonic?
Well, that was a Japanese commercial. I would comment on how weird it is, but I think the video speaks for itself.
Alright, let's just jump into the game. As Sonic the Hedgehog, it's up to you to venture through over 6 different locations and stop the evil Dr. Robotnik from kidnapping all the animals and taking over the world. Each level is broken up into 3 acts, and with the inclusion of the final zone, that gives us a total of 19 levels to venture in.
In terms of gameplay style, Sonic the Hedgehog plays like your typical 2D platformer. You can move left and right and jump. Splattered throughout each zone are obstacles that Sonic must avoid or destroy. This can range from spikes, environmental hazards like lava, and badniks, robot creations Dr. Robotnik that are hell-bent on taking out Sonic. In addition, we also have our red and yellow springs, which can either help Sonic progress or lead you into booby traps.
Also scattered throughout the stages are rings and monitors. Think of them as insurance. If Sonic gets hit without any rings, he loses a life. With at least 1 ring, Sonic could take an extra hit at the expense of losing all of his rings. Collecting 100 of them grants Sonic an extra life. Monitors are boxes Sonic can break that can either contain 10 rings, a shield which grants Sonic extra protection, speed shoes which can increase Sonic's speed temporarily, and finally invincibility, where Sonic pretty much becomes an unstoppable fast-moving blue demon from hell.
But this isn't your standard Mario clone. Fuck no. Sonic the Hedgehog has speed on his side, and trust me, there's nothing more satisfying than building up speed and skyrocketing your ways past obstacles and enemies.
It's all about the physics in this game. To build up speed, you're gonna need some distance, the right angles, and skill. When running, you can press down on the D-pad to have Sonic roll into a ball, allowing him to gain speed while going down hills, and it also allows you to plow through badniks. Just watch out for spikes, they can still fuck you over.
At the end of each zone is a boss fight with Dr. Robotnik, who uses his many inventions to try and put out your little hero out of commission. Most of the time, they're piss easy, but some fights can actually be pretty annoying.
In terms of look, Sonic the Hedgehog is without a doubt one of the best looking Sega Genesis games. The levels are colorful, and the use of parallax scrolling really adds a sense of depth to the stages. Green Hill Zone.
Sonic's World 1. It's a nice little beginner's level to get us moving really fast and introduce us to the game mechanics. Some areas to explore and a lot of loops.
Marble Zone. And we immediately kill that nice buzz we had with Green Hill in this clunker of a level. It's slow, it's monotonous, and it can get pretty dull. Spring Yard Zone.
This is a kind of mix between the first two. Some nice fast parts, but allows slow block riding as well.
Labyrinth Zone. And it's here we find out that Sonic can't swim and can drown underwater. Well, that's just great. Slow, platforming, and a time limit since Sonic can't breathe. God, what else can go wrong? Starlight Zone.
Finally, back to some speed and using physics to our advantage. This is what the entire game should have been.
Scrap Brain Zone.
Send in everyone.
Which one?
Everyone!
If you manage to reach the end of an act with at least 50 rings, a giant ring will appear that Sonic can jump into. These are special stages, which Sonic can earn the chance to earn one of the 6 Chaos Emeralds. Talk about the definition of an acid trip. If you collect enough rings here, Sonic will earn a continue, which will grant you 3 extra lives in case you get a game over. Collecting the Chaos Emeralds doesn't really do anything except change the ending slightly. So if you want a better ending, then nab all 6 Chaos Emeralds. Wasn't there 7? Yeah, laugh it up, fat man.
Musically speaking, it's great. In this day and age, I don't know a single person who doesn't know the tune to Green Hill Zone, and even people who don't play the games are familiar with the opening jingle. Though some tracks are clearly better than others, as a whole the soundtrack is pretty kick-ass.
In the end, Sonic the Hedgehog ended up becoming exactly what Sega had hoped for. It became the Genesis killer app and sold by the shitloads. It's actually the second best-selling Sonic game on the Genesis. There was a point in time where having a Sega Genesis pretty much required that you owned Sonic the Hedgehog. You were considered a pussy if you didn't. This game will forever cement Sonic's place in history as one of the most significant games of all time.
Hell, forget games of all time, how about one of the most important characters of all time? This marked the beginning of gaming's biggest rivalry that even continues today. For those of you not in the know, Nintendo had thoroughly dominated the last 6 years of video gaming. If you wanted to do something, it would have to be on Nintendo because no one else could compete. But then, Sonic came along. For the first time ever, Nintendo had competition. For the first time since Nintendo had entered consoles, someone else had market share. Someone else was the cool guy in town. And that was Sonic the Hedgehog.
Now, if only it had a better commercial. God, what is this?
Next time on Sonic the Hedgehog, Dr. Robotnik is back in action as he tries to take over South Island and...
What the hell are you doing?
Oh, nothing. See you guys next review.